Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of On Board with Cruise Passenger, brought to you today by Scenic. I'm Peter Lynch, publisher of cruisepassenger.com.au and Cruise and Travel magazine.
And I'm Bernadette Chua, the content director of cruisepassenger.com.au and Cruise and Travel magazine.
Today, we're heading to Antarctica. I suggest you all grab your puffer jackets and binoculars because this is going to be an expedition.
But we are not only going to Antarctica, we'll also be heading to the hottest destination in Australia, not literally, but also in a way, the Kimberley. We've never seen anything like this because Scenic's 6-star all-inclusive, all luxury discovery yacht with talks of helicopters and submarines will be in that area.
It will be a first for sure. And I must say, I watched the launch of Scenic Eclipse 2, and I can't wait to try out those submarines and helicopters myself.
So which one are we taking? I'll take the helicopter then.
I'll take the submarine. That sounds about right.
So let's start with Antarctica. And Peter, my understanding is that you've been to Antarctica.
I've recently been to Antarctica, which is why I've got my beard here, which I've kept to remind myself of a very special place. It's life-changing, authentic adventure experiences, real encounters with wildlife, and a sense that we were really on an expedition. It's an amazing experience, and I would recommend anyone to try it.
And so I know that our special guest would not agree more with those sentiments. So for anyone who's been watching Scenic's Maritime Masters Expedition Antarctica,
I've been watching
the docuseries on Discovery Channel, and we're recommending it stream. Sorry, I'll have to start that again.
You gotta love podcasts.
Yeah. Don't you love it?
Sorry.
Yeah. This is what happens on news all the time.
For anyone who's been watching Scenic's Maritime Masters Expedition Antarctica docuseries on the Discovery Channel, we recommend it streaming it on Binge, and it is a great show. And you will already know Discovery Operations Director Jason Flesher. Welcome, Jason.
Oh, Bernadette, Peter, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
So you're now a global TV star, Jason. How does it feel?
Interesting. I was in Florida the other week, and somebody literally on the street came to me and said, "I know you. I saw you on TV the other day." And
well, at least they didn't say anything else, though.
No, I walked away quickly.
Oh, no autographs. Now, Jason, you've got a wealth of experience. 35 years experience as an outdoor event coordinator, a wilderness guide, and 30 years in wilderness search and rescue. And now, Discovery Operations Manager for Scenic Eclipse. What does a day look like for someone who does a job like that?
There's a lot of office time now.
Oh, no.
And, especially since I just got a new promotion title to Director of Discovery Operations. And
very good.
So now you mentioned helicopter and submarines, and I'm overseeing in charge of the heli and sub programs now.
Well, you know what we want, right?
Let's see how this podcast go first.
So now Scenic has set a new benchmark when Eclipse launched, and she's the first of her kind, featuring many of these new tech experiences, as we were mentioning, the helicopters and the submarines. But for those who don't know, Scenic also recently launched her sister ship, the Eclipse 2. So what's new with the Discovery Yacht, Jason?
That's a really great question, because with Eclipse 1 first, she was the prototype. And we've learned so much and put so much of what we learned on the interior, especially from guest feedback. We really take guest feedback very serious. So Glenn and Karen Maroney, the owners, had taken that feedback and integrated it into Eclipse 2 yacht when it comes to some of the dining venues, the pools, the public space areas have gotten major upgrades for me personally in my space areas.
Sorry.
At least you're not saying bullshit.
I'm so sorry, Jason.
That's okay.
I was holding on for as long as possible.
I saw you tearing up. So the mudroom is much larger and revamped. And so
Did you say the mudroom?
What's that?
What room did you say?
The mudroom.
The mudroom.
Yes.
They've got a bigger mudroom.
We have a bigger mudroom. We probably have a bigger mudroom than the one you were in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So in the technology of the ship is the same, but in the interior of the ship, you'll definitely would notice some slight difference and some upgrades. But overall, though, the ship build, the technology and everything is identical.
And I think there's been some changes to the submarine. There's now a Scenic Neptune 2.
Yes, there is. With the new submersible that we're getting ready to launch from Triton, company based in Florida. And what's interesting, Triton has built submersibles that have gone to the Marianas Trench, the
Wow.
deepest place in the world.
Yep.
Gone to that Titanic. I know you.
Hang on. Sorry, excuse me again. Sorry, Silky.
I think
All right.
You'll have to leave the room now.
I know, right? Maybe you guys should just do the podcast without me. Sorry.
But with the new submersible, for instance, on Eclipse 1, she's a 7-seater, 6 guests and 1 pilot.
Yep.
And the guests are split into 2 different pods, 3 on each side, where our new Scenic Neptune submersible now is kind of stadium seating. So the entire submersible is the bubble. And so you have a 270-degree view.
Yep.
And so you're out there in the water itself, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it holds 9, so 8 guests and 1 pilot. So it holds more guests to have that experience. What's magnificent, because I'm part of working on the design with it, and Tom is really excited about this too, is the seats themselves swivel and there's a little fold-up table. So we're talking about being able to do champagne, ceremony.
I can't believe it.
Tom's even like, can we do sushi and champagne?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, of course we can. So we can, not only have that experience of being, below the surface in the ocean, but also we can make an event out of it.
Yeah.
My goodness. And what kind of things have you seen for the submarine?
Me personally, when I've been in the sub in all over the world, Antarctica, Arctic, in the Mediterranean, warm water areas, it's hit or miss, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most of the world's oceans are not clear, like with the Great Barrier Reef or the Caribbean. And so it can be a little murky. And sometimes when you get to the ocean floor, that's when you'll see the mollusks and starfish and some fish down there. But one of my favorite places was in the Red Sea. And it's the 2nd largest reef system in the world next to the Great Barrier Reef. And so just diving a reef wall, you don't have to go deep. The absolute colors of the fish and the mollusks and the coral is just magnificent.
That would be amazing. I mean, I must say I was really lucky. I saw an ice fish, and I have to say they have pretty big teeth.
So was that on the menu for dinner that night then?
Well, it would have been, but I have to
You
say,
didn't extend the arm and try to go.
yeah, I was very tempted. And we did see some penguins swim by, which is really fantastic. I mean, we're going to talk about it shortly, I'm sure, but they just are so delightful and they're everywhere. It's just
this last season, we had one of the most magnificent experiences. We were 60 meters down, and all of a sudden, this shadow came into the light, and it was a leopard seal that followed the submersible down and was curious. 60 meters, because we didn't think they would go that deep, because penguins, their food source isn't really go that deep. But sure enough, just have this beautiful ghostly photo of a leopard seal vertical with the submersible. Just stunning.
They are such beautiful animals. I mean, I know they're great hunters, but they do look terrific. Now, Antarctica, obviously a key destination for a discovery yacht particularly. And you're offering a variety of ways guests can explore Antarctica, the Ross Sea and East Antarctica in 2023, 2024 and 2025 itineraries. Tell us some of the highlights from there, if you would.
Sure. When Scenic Eclipse 2 comes down to Australia, She'll be launching for the Antarctic season uh, out of Hobart as well as out of New Zealand. And what's pretty incredible is we're going to be in the Ross Sea around McMurdo. We're going to go explore some historic huts
Yep.
in the area. And it's so much more remote and more
Mm.
challenging to get to than, for instance, on West Antarctica, where everyone typically goes from Latin America. But one of the most magnificent things with Eclipse, as you know, we have our own helicopters. And we're going to be able to go explore Antarctica like many
Mm.
ships can't, where other ships have to charter helicopters. With our own helicopters, we're going to be able to go explore into the inland dry valleys. And
Mm.
Wow.
for me personally, that's the one place in Antarctica I haven't been to that I want to get to. And we'll be able to do it on our own ship.
That
Well, it's
is
something really
amazing.
interesting that Anthony Lever had also said is that if we haven't taken a scenic guest to a part of Antarctica that other people have visited, we're not doing our jobs correctly, you know?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting. And you know, that's so important that you really want to explore places that people haven't been to.
Mm.
I mean, you know, not many places really live up to that phrase trip of a lifetime.
Mm.
But I have to say, after my visit, that Antarctica definitely does that. And I remember, you know, one of the things that was really drilled into us, what the team really said, that you will become the greatest advocates for Antarctica. You'll go out, you'll tell your friends. When you hear about it, you'll be able to contextualize that news. You'll know what's happening. And they were right. I absolutely have become an advocate for Antarctica.
Mm.
You know, one thing I always tell our guests and people is once you've been to Antarctica for your first time, I will guarantee you, next time you look at a globe or a world map, your eyes are going to go straight to the bottom.
It's
And
Yeah.
true.
wonder,
It's true.
how am I going to get back there
Yep,
again?
it's true.
Mm.
It's absolutely true. That's why I keep saying, don't leave it too long. Don't leave it too long. Because, you know, so many people go when they can only make one trip.
Yeah.
So some of the land and sea journeys include the very best of both worlds, don't they? South American delights, right through to the ultra luxury exploration of Antarctica. I mean, some of your destinations really do have an all-inclusive destination feel. In other
Mm.
words, you get lots and lots of different cultural experiences.
They truly do. And what's unique with Scenic compared to many other operators out there, a lot of your expedition operators just go to Antarctica and the Arctic and they just relocate the ships.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But what's unique with Scenic is we're always full on discovery mode.
Mm.
So if you consider the Arctic, Antarctic as the bookends, where we go in the world in between, that's the adventure,
Mm.
yeah.
you know. And so for our guests or any guests that come on board, non-polar regions doesn't matter. The eclipses are really the one way to explore wherever in the world you are, because you can explore above, in our helicopters, right, to see the land and just having that bird's eye view, or on the water by Zodiac, kayaking, paddleboarding, under the water in our Scenic Neptune submersibles, on land by our Discovery guides, and so on.
Mm.
Really being able to immerse guests into the full experience of where they are in the world.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, the important part, of course, is that it's all inclusive.
Well, and the
Yes.
ship is super luxurious as well.
Yeah. So you literally are, you know, picked up, collected, and from the time you get on the ship, you don't actually have to worry about any expenses. I mean, I do understand, of course, that if you want to do your own trip in the helicopter,
Mm.
there's
Yeah.
an additional charge, as you'd expect. But for most of the time, for most of those cultural experiences, you won't be spending an extra cent.
Well, I mean, I've got to save that all for the shopping, right?
Absolutely. And you'll need to do some shopping for Antarctica.
Yeah, right. No, you're absolutely right. Even the tours, shore excursions our guests go on are all included there. And so everything on the ship, from the restaurants to the bars, is all inclusive as well. And
Mm.
the only charges that would be is really for a helicopter submersible,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
So Yeah.
And that's, I think, one thing that I really love about Scenic. It's that attention to detail. You've got your butlers and you've got, Michelin starred chefs.
Of course.
So
It's the only way to explore.
well, for some, Peter, maybe I shouldn't, Jason. I think I should ask him for a pay rise then.
I think we should. We'll talk. We'll talk.
We'll talk, exactly. So now Scenic are going to Antarctica, obviously, for 2023, 2024, and 2025, but there are obviously more itineraries on offer as well.
And the Kimberley, of course. As we mentioned, there are limited places, I think, with 3 voyages in December and January. So our listeners need to really hurry if they're going to get on board for that first Kimberley season.
For the Kimberleys, yes, Antarctica, when we go to the Ross Sea, that's where we have the 3 voyages.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing that for 2 seasons. But for the Kimberleys, we have a dozen voyages that'll be going to the Kimberleys for 24.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
25 as well, too. And I'm so excited.
What are you most looking forward to?
For me, for instance, personally, I live in the American Southwest, and I've lived almost 9 years on Native American reservations doing work with kids and for the indigenous cultures. And coming to Australia, when I was here back in 1988, the first thing I did was I went to the Blue Mountains and I went to visit some of the, indigenous cultures here. And I was taught how to play the didgeridoo and I play the didge now back home. But just having that cultural experience with the indigenous peoples of different countries and so on. So for me personally, being in those regions, being amongst the people, and exploring their worlds in the ancient world and bringing the modern and ancient cultures together. And similar, Peter, to what you say about Antarctica, going back, not going, till, you're too old to really experience it. The Kimberley is right up there with one of the last true frontiers to explore. And it's something you don't want to do and wait too long, because the way we're going to explore it on land, with hikes and so on, or by helicopter, doesn't matter. There's so much to see just in the land but more importantly, the ancient cultures. We're going to go visit the petroglyphs or the cave art and so on. And we're going to have Aborigines on the ship as well as on land and as guides. So you just won't be able to get it all in one voyage.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think actually interacting with the people who own that culture, and in the Kimberleys, of course, it is all about the Aboriginal culture, the art, and the special places and the stories that they tell you about why those special places are so special to them. That's really connecting you to the experience in the Kimberley.
It is. It truly, truly is. And and the way we're putting it together is going to really help enrich that experience. So like when you leave Antarctica or the Arctic, it's going to be that same feeling as, when am I going to get back?
Yeah. And will there be special food experiences as well on Eclipse? Because, of course, Eclipse and Eclipse 2 are very famous for their culinary offerings.
And that's such a really good point and question, because wherever Eclipse is in the world, Tom's always made sure, for instance, that one of our excursions that we often do is we'll go to the local fish market with the chefs. Right? And
I love that.
Best catch of the day, and then bring it to the ship and cook it up. So it's very similar. So not only is it about the local seafood, but when we're in different regions of the world, just the local vegetables and fruits and everything. And when we're in Latin America, we've gone to coffee plantations and chocolate, cocoa bean, and then we bring it back to the ship, and the chefs just do an amazing, unique creation off of what they've gotten that day. So it'll be the same in the Kimberley as well for us.
Yeah, sounds excellent. And some of your personal favorites in terms of your journeys so far. Let us know what really is outstanding in what you've done?
You're talking about on board Eclipse,
Yeah,
Eclipses. Well, gosh, for instance, I've been going to Antarctica since 2010. I have over 100 voyages down there. And
100.
Wow.
when
You
I've
must
been,
really love it.
like I said, you're always going to find a way to get back.
Different every time, right?
Every time. And for me, it's not just about Antarctica, but it's the world. And, because I've worked all over the world in my career, and I have over 40 years now doing it. I know the stuff you had was outdated 5 years ago, but it's over 40 years now that I see it through our guests' eyes,
Mm.
and their excitement and being able to enrich that experience is what keeps me going and doing this for so long. And so even though I go back to a place so often, it doesn't matter because I'm seeing it for the first time through our guests' eyes and seeing
Yeah,
their excitement because I know I created that for them. So besides the polar regions, for me, um, truly in the remote locations. So yes, we go to the Mediterranean. Yes, it's magnificent and the immersing into the European culture, but going to the Kimberley, going to certain areas of Latin America or Alaska,
Mm.
is um, and exploring it the way we can, it's just magnificent, truly, truly magnificent to see. In when we were in Alaska last and flying in the helicopter, and down below we find this remote river, and there are grizzly bears fishing, and
Oh, wow.
They're young. One there was a cub on the mom's back while mom is fishing salmon, and we're in the helicopter. Of course, we're several hundred feet up, but this is nature right in front of you, and
yeah,
you
it's
don't
wonderful,
get
isn't it?
that perspective.
And I think that's so important. I mean, again, just harping back to my Antarctica experience, I mean, it was really interesting that during one of our sightseeing tours, a leopard seal actually took a penguin, and
Mm.
there was lots of debate on the Zodiac about this incident and whether, we all felt that,
Well,
you
it's
know,
nature at work.
nature at work.
It's
Yeah,
you can't.
absolutely.
There's no human intervention.
And our
Mm.
guide said, look,
Absolutely.
you have to understand that that leopard seal needs four of those to maintain its weight.
Mm.
Right. No,
And
they'll
that's
eat
why
like
there are so many
100 things.
penguins.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they hang out around the colonies. And one time I had the most incredible experience of orcas teaching their young how to hunt and the whole process of hunting seal. And then after they got the seal, there was penguins on an ice floe, and the four adults went to that ice floe and did that magnificent thing where they dove right
Yeah.
into it and flipped the ice over,
Mm.
and it was game on.
Wow.
All while teaching the young how to hunt. And
Yeah.
that's mind blowing right in front of you. And that's the rawness of Antarctica.
Mm.
Exactly. It's
Left
extraordinary.
untouched. Yes.
That's what I meant when I said it's an expedition. It's really is an expedition. But look,
True.
one of the things you just touched on there was, of course, yeah, the Scenic Eclipse, both one and two, have amazing technology
Mm.
which allows them to make these visits. Just talk us through a little bit about that. I mean, the stabilizers, really are, in their fore when you're in a place like Drake Passage, for instance.
So it feels more like the Drake Lake, right?
Very,
Right, right, exactly. Good,
absolutely
good.
want that. And
Yeah.
you don't anchor, you never drop the anchor,
Mm.
thus, saving the environment because, its technology allows it to cope with that. Tell us a little bit about how that has come
Sure.
about.
So Eclipse was purposely built for Antarctica and for the Drake Passage. So starting with her stabilizers are very exaggerated, very large. They're just what 15% smaller than the world's largest cruise ships,
Wow.
right? So
Okay.
they're massive. They're over 50% larger than any other expedition ship.
Yeah.
They're also zero speed stabilizers. So even though when the ship is not moving, it's kind of the stabilizers are like you treading water.
Yeah.
So they're always counteracting swell and wind and everything to hold it stable. And then, as you mentioned, we have a dynamic positioning system, DPS, where we never have to drop an anchor. And basically, the captain gets the ship in the right position to get lee for us so we can do our Zodiac operation. And putting the ship in the windward side so it blocks the wind is the windward side. And then he pushes a button. And when he pushes that button and the stabilizers are doing their thing, we don't move. And so by never dropping an anchor, we're protecting the ocean floor. When we were in the Red Sea, between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned earlier, in the second largest coral reef system, they let us go to places that are not allowed by any other ship, because once we convinced them about our dynamic positioning system, we protect the coral reef. And so we're able to get to places that no other ship ever visited. And we do remote landings that way. So besides that, our Aussie pod system, we don't have rudders. So our propulsion system just rotates 360 degrees as well. So we can turn on a dime. And what is that? How does that matter? Well, for instance, Antarctica, everything is based on time. You're only allowed to be in a certain place for a certain amount of time. So your average operator, expedition ship, by the time the ship gets to location, drops the anchor, gets the ship in lee, so to speak, gets all the Zodiacs off the ship, the kayaks, the paddle boards, whatever, it's close to an hour before guests actually can leave the ship, because then you got to set up shore. But on Eclipse, I can get all 12 Zodiacs out, the kayaks, the paddle boards, the submersible in the water, the helicopters launching, the discovery team on shore, and guests are leaving the ship in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Everything is out. And that's because of the dynamic positioning and the technology that we have.
Well, can I bring my champagne on the paddleboard?
You could tell this is soft adventure, can't you?
Yes, it is.
But
it'll be waiting for you in your suite when you get
Fine,
there.
all right, Jason. I'll just have to deal with that then.
bring your own ice.
Yeah, I'll make sure Tom serves it.
Please do.
But I think one of the great things was that the certainly the discovery teams themselves are really knowledgeable and tell that story. You know, of I can still remember we were standing on a hill, and you know, one of the remarkable things about penguins is, and I'm sure you know this, Jason, they actually build their nests at the top of a hill out of pebbles. So the pebbles are down there, the hill's up there, and penguins really aren't equipped for anything except swimming. And so we had a great guide who was explaining how these poor birds would take their pebble, and they'd get halfway up the hill and they'd need to arrest. So they'd fall on their bellies, right? Beat down, and they'd have a sleep. And then they'd wake up and they would either not remember quite why they were there, or their pebble had sunk while they were sleeping.
Oh, poor things.
And they just resign to walking back down and picking up another. It was so sad. You so wanted to go and pick up the pebble and run up the hill with it.
I know. Or they'll steal pebbles from another nest and bring it to their nest.
Yeah.
They do that a lot too. Yes.
But it was all brought alive by the discovery team. Now, tell us a little bit about who you've got on board, because I know Scenic is very famous for its experts and how they deliver that experience to the guests.
So my team is all handpicked, and they're from all over the world. Many of them are PhDs and master degree holders in their specialty. So I have my specialists, historians, ornithologists, marine biologists, glaciologists, zoologists, who can really do the deep dive in the lecture series that we do on the ship. But then on shore, our ornithologist is at the penguin colony, marine biologist on shore with the seals and so on. And then I have my naturalists that are my general practitioners there as well. And then of course we have our kayaking guides, paddleboard guides, submarine pilots, and so on. And our submersible pilots are marine biologists as well. And so one of the things I always tell people is, you know, we can train anybody to do anything, but not give them a personality. And one of the infectious things about the discovery team on Eclipse is their synergy. You know, how well they work so close together. And that's part of having the right personality to create that team that then is just so infectious to
Yeah.
our guests and crew.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned deep dives there. So tell me, do you get,
The
do
icy
you
dip.
do the icy dip?
The polar plunge.
A
Yes.
polar plunge, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I mean, absolutely. Every voyage, whether in the Arctic or the Antarctic, we always do the polar plunge. And we
Right.
always, it's a surprise and delight. So we never tell our guests when it's going to happen. And, but we always tend to put it towards the end of the voyage because you want the guests to be really stoked and excited at that point. But once we
Rather,
make the decision, it's game on, buddy. It's game
well,
on.
it's rather than just throwing them off the ship on the first day, maybe that might be a bit of a shock to them.
Might be a bit of a shock. They're not ready for that, yes.
Yeah.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely. And do you do it yourself?
I've done it myself. Don't forget, I'm a desert rat. I live in the desert, so I'm not a fan of cold, extreme cold. But
Jason,
yes,
I'm with you. I may as well tell you right up front, I said no.
oh, did you?
I did. Yeah.
In all my voyages, I'm going to be honest with you. I've done it 3 times out of
Yeah.
over 100 voyages, and the last 2 times I was pushed in. So
Well, I mean, at least it's a 3% conversion rate, so it's not too
there you
bad.
go.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
talk about it, right? I did it. But
Now, talking about guest experiences, tell us a day in the life of a guest on board the Scenic Eclipse.
so wherever in the world you are,
Mm.
doesn't matter.
Yep.
You have an incredible suite with your own private balcony. You have a butler. So you have that white glove touch. If you ever need anything, want anything, and if you want to schedule anything, your butler service will take care of that for you. And then, of course, you have 10 dining facilities. Joy. So the beautiful thing is you're on a voyage, you can dine in a different facility each night, each day, for breakfast, lunch, dinner, doesn't matter. So, and many of our facilities are boutique. So they may be from a 9-seater to 30. So we do have reservations to make sure, you can get into that dining facility. And then of course we have our larger, but each facility is a culinary safari on the ship itself, right? So every restaurant is a different region of the world, and every restaurant has the chefs from that region of the world with that specialty touch. And then of course we have our 9 bars, so you can enjoy your different type of libation, whatever you like. And then during the day, of course, we have entertainment, just typical game stuff, but in the evening we do have live entertainment that takes place in the theater as well. And then during the day, depending where in the world we are, you would either be going on land tour excursions, if we're port side somewhere, or if we're on true discovery mode in remote locations, then the discovery team will take you out normally on 1 and many times 2 excursions a day, a morning and an afternoon as well.
Yeah.
So it's a full day, and we know that if the evenings are a bit quiet, then we know we did our job.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
So Peter, office excursion on the Scenic Eclipse too,
Absolutely. No polar plunges though, if you don't mind.
Sorry, I'll push both you and Jason in then.
And you'll find me
Just not in the Kimberleys. I don't want to deal with problems.
Oh, you don't want to go
Sorry.
over. You don't want to go over in the Kimberleys.
Yeah, definitely not.
And also there's the Senses Spa, which I think is one of the highlights on the Scenic Eclipse.
It is. The spa is just magnificent, from, the masseuses that we have there to the hairdressers. And then also part of the spa is we have the most incredible yoga Pilates room. And then of course we have our weight facility, but we have personal trainers on board. We have meditations that take place on board as well. So it's a full rounded spa, and it's just beautiful. Of course, as well as having a sauna and our plunge pools and steam rooms and everything that's there.
That's why Jason doesn't look a day over 21.
I've got to say,
Thank you.
you're
I'm almost
so
60, I'll tell you that right now.
I put it down to the polar plunge myself. No, I'm really in awe of these journeys. I mean,
Mm,
they really sound amazing.
yeah.
All the itineraries sound amazing. I'm particularly excited, I think, by the Kimberley and those journeys back down to Antarctica from here, because I must say it's a long way to go to South America and then go to
Mm,
Antarctica. So I think that's going to be so popular with Australians. The
You
chance
know,
to actually get some of their history,
mm,
some of the Australian explorers, I think you're also
yes,
following.
yeah.
very much so. And what's for me so magnificent is we're going to have a ship on both sides of Antarctica,
Mm,
and
Yeah.
not only on the peninsula
Wow,
side,
yes, of
but
course.
also East Antarctica. So for our guests who may have experienced the peninsula, can now experience East Antarctica and the Ross Sea, or vice versa. So you can truly explore Antarctica like no other can.
and will the ships meet at some point as well?
That would be great.
Yes, it's going to happen.
Aha!
I'm putting those itineraries together right now. And so in January of 2024, I
Yeah.
have it scheduled for both ships on the peninsula will be meeting up. And I mean, we got to get that photo op,
Oh,
right?
Oh my
100%.
gosh,
Yeah.
that will
Or
be the neck
helicopters
party
and
of all
everything.
parties.
Yes. So it will be happening, and I'm so excited for that opportunity
Mm,
when ships are
Excellent.
together.
I mean, it's such a varied program, really, that you there's so much in it. What do
Yeah,
you think? I mean, I know there are some great itineraries, Broome to Darwin, for instance, when she's in Kimberley. But what are you most looking forward to? I think you're actually going to take your first visit to the Kimberley fairly shortly.
I am.
What are you most looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to, for instance, in a few days, I'm going to be up at the Horizontal Falls.
Yep.
I've heard so much about the falls, and I'm
mm.
so excited to experience them there and the magnificent waterfalls and those canyons to really see. But also, it's the adventure in me. I want to see some crocodiles. I want to,
Just not just not face to face though.
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to be dangling my feet in the water, but to really have that Mick Dundee experience.
Yes.
with the
Look,
crocodiles.
and I'm told that you won't be short of crocodiles.
No, no,
There,
definitely not.
there
Also,
are quite a lot there.
as I mentioned, my time with indigenous cultures around the world and living on the different reservations, communities, but really experiencing the cave art
Yeah.
and diving, you know, full immersion into the culture. I'm very excited about.
And are you guys deploying the subs and the helicopters in the Kimberley as well?
The helicopters, yes. The
Okay.
submersibles, no, because of the currents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have very heavy tidal currents up there, so it's just not safe to dive the
Mm.
submersible there, nor put kayaks in the water for very obvious reasons.
But you're
Well, I mean, we could try. You could send me up there and just see what happens.
we can certainly shake
We
that
can
up.
send you up, but you may not come back.
Exactly. But it'll be a great story.
But you
Yeah.
do barramundi fishing, because I think the helicopter is going to offer barramundi fishing. Is that right?
Correct. We're definitely going to be offering
That
fishing
is
excursions. Yes,
such
very
an
low fishing
that
trips.
is such an interesting experience to have. It's really amazing, and
Yeah.
I think quite uniquely Australian.
Mm.
Very, very, very unique. And I think that'll be a huge attraction and draw
I'm sure.
North Americans to come down.
Yeah, I am
And
absolutely sure. But the submarines, I think, will be deployed around the Barrier Reef.
yes, I already have the permits for all that. And so we'll be deploying everything around the Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
It's
Oh, well,
full on, full
yeah,
on.
that will again be really, really unique, I think.
Yes.
So you guys sound like you've been pretty busy. So tell us a little bit more about the Discovery Channel and Maritime Masters.
Well, I know well, for me personally, it was just an incredible experience
Mm.
making the docuseries. And the team that did the filming and the sound and everything were all Emmy Award winners
Yes.
for other series that they've done. And so it's been received incredibly well around the world. I know in Europe it just launched, in North America it's been going, down here in Australia it's been going.
Mm.
And the feedback, from everything I've heard unsolicited from people, that it's really engaging. And
Mm.
I know these next couple episodes is when we're deep in Antarctica, and there's so much excitement, being down there and experiencing and having our guests through the TV,
Mm.
we just experience it the way our guests experience Antarctica.
I
Well,
must say,
I guess because the other thing as well is that it's completely unscripted. You
yes, I was
guys
just going to
are,
say,
yeah,
it's
it's your
really quite
day-to-day,
authentic.
yeah, it's your day-to-day job that you're just, all the things that you encounter.
Kind of like this podcast.
Exactly.
Exactly like this podcast.
Yes.
What's this?
You just found out about this
We-
morning, right, Jason?
Kind of.
Yeah,
I
no.
got off the airplane, came to the office, said, "Oh, by the way, can you?"
Look, I've got to say, I think, congratulations on the series. It is great. And look, you can catch up on all 5 weeks now by searching for Maritime Masters on Binge, just so that our listeners can get a peek at what we're all talking about, or head to Scenic's YouTube channel where you can watch many of the exclusive moments from the series. And it is a lot of fun. It's very authentic, and I think it's well worth watching. Even if you're not going on to the eclipse, but of course, we think after watching the series, you'll really want to get.
So, we're talking about cost and like, if one of our listeners wanted to get on the Scenic Eclipse to Antarctica, well, what's kind of the price point that it would set them back?
That's a great question because one, it really depends on where in the world you are, right? Because that's going to change. For Antarctica and so on, it's around $1,800 a day.
Which is pretty amazing. I mean, they get you.
All inclusive.
Yeah.
Yes. And just truly having that ultra luxury experience, right? And we've been able to figure out the formula of how to take that ultra luxury experience on the ship and my discovery team taking it off the ship.
Yeah.
It's very seamless in many ways. And that's what makes it so unique and you have to remember too, is prior to Eclipse, no one's ever had submersibles, helis, and done everything. We figured it out.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's a whole podcast in itself.
I know. Yeah.
On the beginnings of
You
us.
you mean the bloopers?
The bloopers, the moments, yes.
Yep.
But we have it dialed in now, and we figured it out where everyone else is who's trying to catch up to us. So the price point, wherever in the world it is, your experience is priceless.
Yeah.
We can offer you such incredible discovery and wonder of where you are in the world.
I can put that in a bit of context, actually, because I did this calculation for somebody not long ago. I was in Europe about a month ago, and I got a special rate at a hotel that was actually charging 1,200 euros for a room. So I was in the room for $900. Absolutely. I have to say breakfast was included, but 900 euros had not, which would be about 1,200 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Hadn't been anywhere, hadn't had lunch, dinner, no tours, no great trips in submarines or helicopters, absolutely bare bones a room. And that was an average room.
Yeah.
Now imagine if I traveled, if I decided to go and do those great adventures. So really, actually, when you look at it like that, the value is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's also just the access to like glaciologists, to ornithologists, to having you
Of course.
explain the terrain and having just that expertise. You can't buy that really,
And the land
Yeah.
experience is, the expense on land now is just catching up, but without all of those unique, special experiences that you're offering. So
And
really
it's all included.
worthwhile.
It's all exclusive, right? So you get everything, those tours, everything.
Yep. And look, just to mention, there are some special savings anyway at the moment. So if you book up early, you can save $10,000, which can't be bad.
No, not at all, especially for those early bird bookings.
Yep.
Put it towards your next Antarctica or Kimberley cruise, right?
So definitely need
Or Chef's Table with Tom.
or the chef's table with Tom.
Exactly. I could probably buy 10 chef's tables with Tom.
Very odd. So definitely listeners need to start thinking about their trips to Kimberley now, because there'll be limited spaces. This is not a large vessel, and
Only 200 guests max.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, so look, I must say, I'm really looking forward to that Kimberley experience. I think it's going to be absolutely terrific.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Jason, for talking us through it. We're really looking forward to hearing about your adventures in the Kimberley as well.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you both for having me join you today.
No, and thank you for joining us on the fly as well, and regaling us with all your experiences.
Yeah. Yes,
Excellent.
my
Jason
pleasure.
Flesher, Discovery Operations Director for Scenic. Thanks again for joining us. You can find out more about Scenic's Antarctica cruises at sceniceclipse.com or cruisepassenger.com.au. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. Stay in touch with the world of cruising. And don't forget to subscribe to our magazine, Cruise and Travel, our gorgeous print magazine, which is on sale at selected newsagents right now.
Or subscribe to cruisepassenger.com.au/magazine.
Great to have your company again, Jason. Lovely to
Thank you
talk
so
to you.
much.
Good luck with the season.
Thank you. Thank you both.